Welcome and thank you for coming today, Edye. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. I'm doing pretty well. I want to start off with our quick wins and something positive, personal, professional, anything, just anything that's good.
Well, as far as a quick win, I do have to say that the school was able to increase their proficiency. We went from 27.2 to 35.9. So we're very excited about that. Also, as a quick win, right now we have teachers. We have about 22 teachers that have come into school for this week to do curriculum writing. And so they're working on everything from lesson plan and developing lesson plan, assessments, kind of mapping out actually the first quarter of the school year. And some of them are with their PLC, so that's even more powerful. But we're very pleased that the teachers come out and they're really engaged. They're all over the building in different groups. And we had an overview session yesterday, sort of an orientation. We brought them in, kind of explained to them, had them revisit, why do you teach? What is all of this for? What's the goal of education? And they each shared their responses. Then we led them through kind of an overview of what our expectations would be, that by the end of the week you will at least have an outline for the first 9 weeks, have developed a certain amount of lesson plans and assessments to support learning. So we're excited about it. And I went through there today. I couldn't stay away, so I went through and I checked in with the teachers, and they were all very appreciative of having the time, and they appreciate having the support of the coaches there.
And the instructional coaches are leading. And
Yes.
this is just for the new content, the reading and the math, or this is everything?
This is everything. Even elective teachers can come and plan. We just want to give teachers an opportunity to think about what they did last year and to pre-plan into next year and to feel good about going into the new school year.
And so have all the PLCs agreed to use whatever is created?
Yes, they talked about that beforehand, and all of them, we have a couple PLCs that are fairly new, so that's just one area that the coaches know they'll have to go back in and kind of help there. But for the most part, everyone's working together.
That's huge. That's pretty good. You using your SIG money for that?
Yes, we are.
Yay,
Yes.
SIG money. That's
and they'll do it
fantastic.
Monday through Thursday, and then teachers could either choose to come this week or the week of August 6th through 9th.
Okay.
So teachers could pick or choose, and we have some teachers that are coming both. And so we expect that what they will be able to create will be even, better.
Even deeper. Yeah,
deeper.
because they've had more time. That's fantastic. I see the work is still happening.
Yes.
Personally, we've had a whole bunch of graduations.
Oh,
Kennedy
yes.
graduated high
Yes,
school. Yeah,
yes.
she's going on down the road to Winston-Salem. Yes. I'm so happy for her to be going. But she's done. I cannot believe it. She's done.
And it happens fast.
Didn't it? Max is now going to high school.
Oh, good.
And our last little graduation was Mason. Mason is graduated from pre-K, so he's going to kindergarten. He'll be at Creekside.
I think it's great that you're there too for them. I mean, it means a lot to children. They know who they can count on, and having that family to support them is important.
Well, I cried like a fool at all of them, so what are you going to do? So just tell me a little bit about how you've been since we last met. Our last meeting was in May.
Yes.
And then we had our little celebration dinner, which was nice.
And that was really nice.
It was nice.
Kind of just seeing how the school year's come down to a close.
Yeah.
And very pleased with the momentum and the positive motivation, I think, that just even the increase in proficiency gave to staff, but even more so, just hearing the talk about, oh, this is what we're going to do next year. Hearing the assistant principals talk about, I'm already setting up my goals. I'm going to make sure. Just hearing that talk in different pockets just makes me feel really good. So I think that stands out more to me. Yeah. And just to see their energy, and that's been refreshing at a time when we're winding down the school year to see, the energy there. So that kind of brings me to something that I'm kind of dealing with now. I'm trying to kind of get ahead of that as a coach in a way, and see how can we how can I kind of harness that and get us into strategic planning into next year.
Okay.
There are a couple of things that kind of stood out this year. So while we're excited about the direction we're going and we're headed in the right direction, we know that there are some kind of areas that need more support.
Okay.
So whether it is certain PLCs, differentiating the support there. So we know that's a thing. But more importantly, it's defining the role that admin is going to play in strengthening, defining the role coaches as far as their next steps. And I think we're in a good place. But I'm struggling a little bit because we have a dean of students on our team who is in charge of like our capturing kids' hearts and positive behavior support programs, and that role needs a little bit more a great deal more defining. I think there's a little struggle there between being seen as admin and being in the role, and so it's kind of painful when you're redefining positions. So I'm trying to look at a leadership retreat, which I've been charged with by the principals as if I would pull together a leadership retreat, and just want to make sure that the retreat can meet the needs of the school, but also individually people will walk away from our admin team especially with just a clear focus on next year. So in order to get there, there's going to have to be some tough conversations and realigning the work of certain individuals. That has to take place. So I'm trying to figure out what order that needs to happen so that we can't do the retreat without clarity. And so how that needs to happen. So just trying to see my time with the principal, then the principal kind of defining roles, and then our leadership time. I'm just trying to wrap my head around, okay, when is all this going to take place?
So it sounds like you got maybe some short-term stuff and some long-term stuff.
Yeah, actually that's right.
And
yeah.
What it sounds like I'm hearing is maybe clarifying your principal's leadership style, whether that is distributive or whatever it might be, or maybe how can we move more towards distributive leadership.
Yes, that's it.
And then there is, sounds like maybe more than one of the support administrators that maybe need clarification, or they are increasing their roles, or there's some shift that needs to be communicated, and you want to get some buy-in for.
Exactly. Can I take some notes?
And then the third thing I think I heard you say, did you want me to go back through those?
No, just
give me
sorry, 1 second.
No,
Thank you. This is because I like the way you kind of spelled it out. It helped me to kind of, that's what I've been thinking. I'm like, oh, I'm really excited. I'm hearing this great, feedback from, it's a great opportunity, but I don't want to kind of gloss over certain things that I know need to happen. And there's an order to things. And so I really want to make sure. So, okay, I think I'm ready. I'm sorry to help you.
And then maybe even a clarity of their roles and expectations of their roles. Support. Maybe helping your principal think through, am I helping him maybe begin and embrace coaching for this year? And maybe in addition to administrative team meetings, maybe one-on-ones, maybe, I don't know how many he can manage, but maybe looking at a schedule, maybe monthly, maybe not, just thinking about what he might feel comfortable in beginning his own practice of coaching, because I hear you saying that this is a huge shift, and it's going to take time. In order for us to continue that success and student success and staff feeling good, this is not a one-shot deal.
It's not. It's not. So kind of a plan beyond just an initial conversation. So I know these things have to take place. I really know that there's got to be value, and this leadership retreat is really going to set a tone. But this, and it's also for the assistant principals, the dean of student and assistant principals, as they're realizing their role in the more of instructional leaders as well. That there needs to be some thought, and I need to make sure the principal has a vision for it.
Right. Because that helps clarify your work. And so you're not overstepping or doing something he never intended for you to do. That's and true. Then you're also, he's feeling supported, and he also has more clarity on what he's actually asking you to do. And for your leadership retreat, that sounds to me really like short-term, like logistical. Okay. And then once you have his vision, then that's driving that. maybe getting some feedback about what people want and need.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, the leadership retreat maybe sounds like the smaller piece,
Mm-hmm.
which is just as important.
I gotcha.
But the clarity and vision from the principal, and then those conversations, and maybe a plan for continued support and conversation, are the larger pieces. So for today,
Okay.
and we can take on either one.
Mm-hmm.
What are we looking to achieve? Is it this entire thing? It's okay if it's this entire thing. We'll just chunk it and take pieces of it, because they're interrelated. So don't feel like you got to pick one thing. But for today's conversation, and we'll circle back.
Okay.
What do you want to achieve?
I think more the conversation with the principal, my kind of touching base back. I mean, we've had conversations and I've captured some of his thoughts, but we need our kind of a grounding meeting, like where it's just the principal and myself, just to make sure that I'm clear.
Okay.
And to make sure that so that we can then move forward with these other conversations and the leadership retreats, just first to establish where do we want to head, where are we going. It's been, since the end of the school year, it's kind of been rapid pace, and so it's important, and my principal asked me to do this for him, to make sure I ground him back, like get him to come down so we can have some time. So I want to honor that he wants time to sit and think through, and I don't want decisions to start being made or we start going down the line without doing this work.
Good.
And so it may be helping me form kind of some critical things that need to take place when I sit with him.
Okay.
And then that would be good for today, because I think out of that, then the other pieces I will be able to handle the other pieces.
And when we circle back, we can talk about the other pieces too.
Okay.
So in terms of what I heard you say is you want to focus on the conversation with your principal and gaining that clarity about his vision for the leadership team for next year.
Yes.
18-19. So with that, if you had to rank yourself on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being out of the box, amazing, how close would you say you are to that objective, to reaching that objective, that outcome, that goal today?
As far as for the principal,
your ability to successfully hold that conversation and get what is needed to move forward.
Probably a 7, 7, 8.
Okay.
7.5.
Okay, we can go with 7.5.
And the reason why I say 7.5 is definitely because we've already said that we know we need this conversation. I just want to make sure that I structure the conversation in such a way that we're covering our bases. It's so much to take in and reflect on, but I want to reflect with a purpose. And so I want to make sure that as we're talking through that I do a great job of maybe defining at the end of, but we're going to talk about a lot of things. So try to formulate that into a next step for him, and with him, so that he can also go forward, because it's already the beginning of July, so I feel that sense of time.
A little bit of urgency.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And so as we get closer to starting to tease this out, tell me, what do you think is already happening towards this? What's working in the relationship? What's working in his work with leadership?
Well, I see that he's involving the assistant principals in more of the decision making.
Tell me a little bit about involving the assistant principals, because I think you sort of, and I know you don't really brag on yourself, but you sort of were the impetus for that, right?
Yes, well, early on, and we had instructional coaches and we have assistant principals, and the history behind the meetings or time together with communication they've all been together. And so there was no separate time where the principal and the assistant principals were meeting. That kind of it happened informally, more so than formally. And I just had a chance to observe and seeing that I did not get the sense that everyone was able to operate to their fullest potential. And I felt that some of that dealt with communication and knowing that it was important, knowing just from my experience, it's important to make sure that when communication is not there, that we create those opportunities. So then this year they started meeting the assistant principals and principal separate or in addition to our instructional leadership team. So the instructional leadership team is now administration and the instructional coaches and myself, all of us together. And then there's a separate meeting with the principal and the assistant principals, and I'm also part of both of those meetings. My role with the principals and assistant principals were to help bring shape to the agenda, help to facilitate moving it along, and to help make sure that we met with fidelity and we honored our meeting time. And I feel very good about that.
Good.
I think that has led to more shared decision making, more involvement of the assistant principals, and I'll tell you, the thing that has come the most is the sharing of ideas. And so I saw over the course of the last few months, just the assistant principals taking initiative to share ideas, helping with problem solving.
Did any of those initiatives or sharing or problem solving result in something very positive, notable?
Yes. So, for instance, I'll give an example. Our incentive program for our students. We created an incentive program as a team, but to look at how we were preparing the children to reach these incentives. Usually, you look at the incentive program and you try to get all the things that you want to tell children, if you do this, then we'll do this. And a lot of planning goes into that. But the assistant principals concentrated on getting the children to buy into it. And so their idea was to go around to the classrooms to communicate, here's this incentive program, but also to call about 8 students down, just random. They called students down to their office and just encouraged them to do better in their work, followed up with them, are you on top of your turning your work in? And it was a beautiful thing to see that the assistant principals decided, hey, we're going to take time to do some coaching, if you will, for kids. Just bring the kids in and do some student conferencing.
Right.
And they did that. And they did that with the mindset of that's going to help them want to do better and want to participate in the center. So I like that level of buy-in. They recognize that the adults are around the table planning this wonderful, great stuff for kids, but we've got to make sure that we've got the kids tuned into it as well. So that's one thing that they did. The other thing I thought was tremendous, and it kind of deals with this, we have time called discovery time. And that's when it's additional moments during the day where we can help reinforce skills for students. And there was a lack of consistency, honestly, with how that was being implemented with teachers. And some of that was administration. We had to definitely take responsibility for not maybe providing enough direction. One of the assistant principals took it upon himself to clarify, to reset with his grade level what that time should be used for, and to follow up by observing and just fired them up again, and then teachers adjusted. They came up with ideas to combine classes together, to separate certain groups of students, because he refocused that whole grade level on, you guys, we got to look at how we're using this time. Let's make sure we're using it wisely. So that's what really stood out to me.
Good.
And those are things that were impactful. It wasn't just sitting back. We want to reach a certain amount. We want students to reach proficiency. And if they do, we're going to get them some cool stuff. It was about what is needed in order to give them a fighting chance to do it. And they went back and they looked at certain things and made sure they were in place. So that energy from the assistant principals was huge. And it's carried on. So I want to make sure, I want to honor the change that we see.
What I hear you saying is you sort of already built this foundation for the change. This argument of not just an initial argument of maybe we need to refocus on our administrators, but you've already set up a structure and a meeting structure, and there have been significant contributions. So tell me more about what of your knowledge and skills and clearly experience you think you have to get you to a 10 to gain this clarity.
I think shifting the team through thoughtful questions to be proactive now. I'm not saying this is totally reactive, but in a way it's reactive. And it's great that we got great ideas and that people are taking initiative. So how can we now be strategic about this? So it's just shifting that work so that it's not like, oh, we got an incentive program, what ideas do we have? Well, let's think on the front end. We have the power now to think on the front end of a school year. And so given the structure, creating the infrastructure where that they're able to operate independently but also collectively. So I see that they contribute, but what does the overall look for that assistant principal? How do you run your grade level? How do you approach it? What is your system and your structure? It's great that we're collectively working together, but what's your game plan going into the year, and helping them think through that.
So tell me what you said, a 7.5. I'm not hearing a 7.5. I'm trying to find what's the 2.5 that you feel like you're missing, because you're articulating it to me, what you need to do or what you think you need to do, what the vision is, like that. Usually you would say, well, we need some buy-in, but there's been like a structure and buy-in established. Y'all have a great relationship. There's trust there.
So the 2.5 difference, I guess for me, is it's always the next level, right? So that's where I want to make sure that the next level, that there's a structure for them to flourish, to continue their work. I know that a lot of this came, and there's a lot of energy around it, and there are some structures in place, but I want to make sure I can keep their attention to go back to that. So I just have to be very mindful. I want to make sure that I'm using the right skills in order to say, great team, great ideas, great contributions, but okay, let's ground up, let's go back, and let's take a look at, as we go into this year, let's bring some structure to it. So I need to help them.
So you need help with structure?
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
I don't know exactly. It's more of, I'm excited about the opportunity that we're creating to plan. I want to make sure that individually, I don't get so caught up in the collective plan for the school, that individually, each assistant principal, they're not working on their own individual plan. So I just want to make sure that we're paying attention to individual growth as well as collective growth of our team.
So, and I'm trying to keep us tied to our original.
Okay, objective. I know I'm going down again.
That's okay.
To the principal.
But gaining clarity from him about his vision on the leadership team, making sure you give him time to think through it, reflect, and having a structure that he adheres to. You gave me a 7.5, and so we're trying to figure out what are strategies to get us closer to 2.5, but
well, I think here, okay, so this is helping me, because from the principal's perspective, I see energy over here. I don't know that his energy and what he sees matches the energy, and I don't want it to be discouraging. So if I have I have a situation where the assistant principals right now are very energetic. They have ideas. They already know kind of what they want to do. But I want to make sure before they get too far down the road that the principal intends on extending that level of latitude within their leadership to be able to do that, so that it won't be diminishing. So that's the thing that I really know, that this meeting with the principal is very important, which I will be in the role too to advocate for the assistant principals and what I see that they want to do and where they want to head. But I have to make sure that he has the level of confidence, trust, and latitude that he's willing to extend that to them.
There we go.
That's it. Well, thank you. That's what it is.
You want to make sure you got the skills to coach him across that gap.
Yeah.
Like he's shown some willingness, but now it's making sense. It sounds like you were saying that it was kind of reactive, like I don't have time to do all of this, and so okay, they can do it, but not necessarily from a perspective of proactive. This is my team. We all work to we have a contribution. These will be like very structured so that you can get the biggest bang again this year.
I think he's starting to see the benefits of how the team started to function toward the end, the benefit of sitting with them and communicating with his assistant principals. He definitely saw the benefit. I think his own leadership too, it made him reflect on his own leadership too. But I just don't know if is he ready for what they are excited about getting ready to do. And there is a gap there. I know there is definitely a gap there, but I want to help him be able to see where he can like kind of close that gap a little, just so that they can feel like they are valued and that they're part of the team too, and that they can take some new steps with trust and confidence from their principal that it's okay if you have a good idea. I do want you to do this, but I have to make sure that you know
so
that gap is good. So I guess how to kind of help work through that gap.
But so if there's a gap between where we are and where we want to be, what is it about you, your experiences, your leadership, your style, what you know about coaching that you think will be an asset to getting across the gap?
First, I think it's important that we agree that there is a gap. And this is, I'm looking at it from the vantage point of my work with the principal right now. And then to peel back layers. And I think I'm at a point relationship-wise where I can peel back, why is there a gap? Because that's kind of, I feel that that's very important to know. Why is the gap there? Because that leads us to, okay, what do we think? If this gap was not there, what could we do? Like, what do we want to do? And so just kind of peeling back all the way through there with him. And then to see what are you willing to change or to do differently. What are you willing to do differently?
So let's shift from him back to you.
To me, okay.
And I want you to tell me, like in the situation where you all are and where you want to be in your role.
Okay, my role.
What's good about what's already happening, things that you are doing that are going to get you closer to where you want to be in closing this gap and having this critical conversation successfully?
Okay. One thing is I've established the principal, I think, and I have a relationship where he's very receptive. We both have agreed that there's a conversation that has to take place before we go into the year, so he's anticipating this. So I think I have buy-in from him. And I think what has helped me to have that buy-in is the fact that I don't go in and I point out this is wrong, this is wrong. I gave myself a chance to really observe, and I ask critical questions. So I always lead with questions. I think that has helped him, and he's commented directly to that. He's like, the way you came in and you didn't come in saying all these stuff was wrong, all these things were wrong. You came in and you just asked questions, and sometimes you kind of took a step back and allowed things, and then I could come to you. He felt comfortable. He felt very comfortable with me. He trusted me because I took time to build relationships with his team, and that's something else he said. He's like, I just saw everyone loves working with you. So it's kind of like that's how he grew even more comfortable with me. So I think what I can use based on what I've built is my ability to build relationships, our relationship. Clarity is so important, and focus is important. I think my ability to help him focus is important. And so I want to make sure that I bring that to the table. And so I want to structure our conversation in such a way that that happens. I think that's what I really need help with, just to make sure, because that's what he counts on me for. And it's important to know what a person counts on me for.
Yep.
And so I do know that he counts on me for that.
And you do know what you do really, really well. So when we think about what's already working, and you tend to always sort of shy away and talk about other people, other roles, and not really yourself and your own contributions. You have established a really positive working relationship, and not a relationship that is super heavy on affirmation and affirmation only, but a relationship that first sought to understand, like you really want to understand what's working, what's good here, what can I affirm, before you start going into what's not. And I think you have spent, the better part of the first few months being there, we talked about observing, listening, watching. And early on, you're fighting your natural instinct, because you can see, oh my gosh, but you can't, because it has to be the leader who sees it. So in affirming all that you do really well, he's right, you're right. Building those relationships with people and having the professional patience to step back and pay attention and wait, and this belief and this faith that you have that he would get it. You always had it from day one. He would get it. I know he will. I know it. And he did, but he did in his own time, and trusting and believing that it takes buy-in from the adults too, at every level, in every position. And how do you get that buy-in? I think going in was much harder than this issue will be. In like that, to me, was like swimming across the Atlantic Ocean, and this is a puddle jump, because there's already that trust. There is already some positive things. You got proficiency gains out that are crazy. The coaches are rocking and rolling. You got teachers going. You got your summer program going. Like, he invited you to the leadership meeting today, and you were there as a support. And just, there's so many positives that are there. And so I want you to sort of think about all these things that are great in your coaching relationship already. That you can use to continue to build that. And don't forget how you started. Seek to understand, and understanding, well, why aren't we distributing leadership? What is that really? And I think you kind of alluded to our values and our beliefs, and that's okay. That is okay. That is okay. But having a safe space to sort of talk about that, and talk about the context of that, and where he is right now, and what might that mean if I give up control. And what if it doesn't work, and how do I come back from it? What are my safety nets? And maybe continuing to encourage him about his own coaching. And maybe it is for yourself thinking through, what are my next steps to support him as he steps out? Because for you, this is a puddle jump. For him, this is going to be a swim across the Atlantic Ocean. And how do I support him in that swim? And let him know that I've got your back, I'm going to continue to support you, but helping him to have some buy-in to it. Why does it matter? What are his challenges? And maybe it's him reflecting on this year. What went well? What didn't? What about my leadership? Am I really super duper proud of? And maybe what am I not? And just kind of thinking about, how can the people around me support me? And using positive examples like the coaches. They're really kicking it. He's instructionally strong, but they're content-based. And you can't be the content-based person. That's right. And the things that they can do are not things he can do. So thinking about how to mirror what works for him and what are successes, and then maybe translate that in a different capacity. But again, that relationship and that trust, that's there. And so you can kind of build anything.
And I think
on top of that.
And when you said time, because he's taking his time to come to it, that's why I want to make sure that time works in concert with one another, and that the time that they're ready to take off and rock it, but he still needs his due time to truly come to it himself, so that he can truly support whatever he decides to, whatever direction, whatever steps we're taking, that he can truly come to it, and he doesn't feel forced to come to it, or he doesn't feel that someone's overstepping or undermining. So that, I guess I want to be protective of the steps that he is making, and the fact that we have to understand he's got to take those steps in his time. But still to keep, or to refocus the assistant principals, those that are, chomping at the bit, ready to go, to try to strike a balance there, so that they can do some of the things that they need to do, but they have to realize they have to follow his leadership.
And what are some quick and easy wins? And if they're chomping at the bit and ready to go as an AP, there's a thousand things you can do procedurally and structurally to get ready for school.
That's right.
And is it like a quick win? Is you just do a spreadsheet of all the responsibilities and get him to sort of just write a name.
Yes.
And he's always the backup for everything. But
Uh-huh.
writing it down on a sheet of paper can
Yes.
help. And then to give that to the APs for them to begin thinking about, okay, I'm over MTSS, what does this mean?
That's right.
Or I don't know, I'm over operations, I'm over fire drills. And just giving them some meat in the interim when you think about time. And maybe for you, it is ramping up your coaching with him, formally and informally. Maybe y'all go to lunch every week for the next month until you can move it forward. But
I
just
love it.
thinking about how to be
This is helpful.
strategic and
That's
giving
what
him
I'm
time and a chunk and time to process, step back, think, reflect, and come back to it. And keeping him in a positive frame like this, everything that's taken off and going really well, like staying on that high and building on that. We're not going to focus about what doesn't work, but how are we going to keep this going? Like, we're winning. How do we keep winning? And reminding him, because he's in a tenuous spot, that it's going really well. Even as a low performing school, it's going really well. Teachers are growing, you're growing. How do we keep growing? And I think eventually maybe you'll get to that. But in terms of thinking about like a small step or some next steps,
Okay,
what do
I'm
you think
excited
you
now.
what do you
Okay.
think you want to do?
Okay. I really do see myself right now, and thank you, because it helped me when you mentioned about the time that he took or had to take. That is so important, and to protect that time as far as helping him continue to move. But my first step, we already started with the areas of responsibility, so that's a good document to sit with and allow him to start thinking and feeling, and gives me a chance to see where his head is on some of these things. But I do plan to sit and let that kind of be the catalyst for, at least for him signing off on, I agree, I can do this. I agree that they can lead in this way, or these are the areas that I want them to lead in. And then with them to harness their excitement is to keep them in those leadership areas that he's already extended. How can we fine tune? What does this mean? You have full reign here, so what do we need to do with this? And keep it there, instead of just overall, we can fix this, we can fix that. Because he might not be ready for all that.
And it might not happen by August.
And it won't, yes, with everything. But it's just seeing that excitement from, I think that's what got me to thinking, oh gosh, I got something on my hands here. I got two people over here who's super duper excited. Like, I'm ready to go set goals. I'm setting the goal. They start setting goals for their grade levels. And then I got one individual over here who feels like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do or what people expect of me. I'm kind of admin, but I'm really not. And then I have my principal who's here, who is ready in some ways to say, yeah, let's get, some other people to step up, but it may not match. There's a gap there. So this has helped me to start with him and looking at what are some of your initial thoughts, just asking him questions, just listening to him for a minute, and then trying to fine tune what he's saying, capture.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with listening, and then I'm going to capture, and then I'm going to get him to confirm with me.
Okay.
That what I'm capturing is right. So I'll listen, capture, then I'll confirm with him, and then we'll talk about what does action look like from that confirmation, and then we'll start working on this. So I'm thinking that might be good.
For the initial conversation.
For the initial conversation, I think that will help me, and then maybe you and I can talk again after that, because then I'll have some takeaways on my own, skills and what I might need to do more of or less of.
And as you begin to ask, make sure you're going back to what you wanted to achieve. And that's that clarity about his vision. And sometimes it's so hard for us as leaders to really be able to articulate what is our vision for leadership. I mean, we want to say we're distributive leaders, but do our actions really show it? And what are the feelings, the values, and the beliefs that sort of undergird that vision? Because the values are what you see in action. And so until we really are able to say openly what our values are, they're misaligned with our action. And your leader is an incredible leader,
Mm-hmm.
but does he see the misalignment between the value and the action?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's helpful.
Okay.
It's helpful because I realize how important it will be for me to have this time alone with him
Mm-hmm.
prior to anything else. So my initial takeaway is to go ahead and put a date and time on it,
Mm-hmm.
and I will, reach out to him and ask him for the date and time for just the two of us to sit and have, start discussing where we want to head. Have this conversation, but really take a look at this throughout the year. Can always go back to when I'm making decisions or when he's making decisions, when we're solving problems, whatever needs to happen.
And
is
that
it
might
maxing?
be an excellent activity. And if you need a resource, let me know, like about uncovering your values.
Yes.
Like how do you communicate, like how do you get somebody to write my values down? Like,
Okay.
or write my manifesto. How do I, instead of just saying, what are your values? And you might say, oh, I don't know, like equity, fairness,
Yes.
like being a good